Uletenges, lakini kwa sasa tunaenda katika jumba la KICC ambapo kamati ya BBI ama chama cha ANC kiongozwa na kiongozi wao ambaye ni Mudavadi wanafika mbele ya kamati hiyo ya BBI.
They need to be addressed. That is why people are committing suicide on some of these. Let me focus again on an issue that it just needs re-emphasizing because it already exists within the context of our Constitution. Youth and job creation. Article 55 of the Constitution of Kenya states that the state shall take measures including affirmative action programs to ensure that the youth have access to relevant education and trainings, have opportunity to associate, to be represented and participate in political, social, economic and other spheres of life, access to employment, and are protected from harmful cultural practices. Mr. Chairman, this is an area that needs to be properly activated. We keep on hearing of funds, one after the other, the youth fund, the women fund, and so forth. But at the end of the day, you still find that access to these funds is still not within the reach of the young people. This is something that needs to be seriously addressed. And these are what you might call administrative and policy-oriented aspects. They may not necessarily, some may require additional legislation, but they need to be actualized. So we propose that the government enhances its programs of attachment and internship policy through the National Industrial Training Authority to prepare the youths for the job market. The government initiates partnerships with the private sector to maximize opportunities for youth through deliberate incentives. This could be even some tax support programs to allow companies to employ. If you employ a certain number of young people, maybe there can be a tax benefit that can be developed to allow the more companies to benefit from that tax and in the process to employ more young people. We must continue to mainstream youth affairs at political parties, at county governments, at national governments, actually in every aspect of leadership. We must also continue to nurture entrepreneurship among the youth. Mr. Chairman, it is disheartening when many graduates had been turned into bodaboda service providers. I'm not saying that there should be no transport at that level, but when you come across a graduate of physics, a graduate of mathematics, a graduate of chemistry, doing nothing else but actually on a boda, it is very disheartening. Mr. Chairman, Kenya's economy is largely agro-based, and there's need to ensure that the farmer is put at the center of all policy and strategy decisions. As ANC, we propose the following. The collapsed agro-processing industries ought to be revived and supported to protect the livelihoods of ordinary Kenyans. I'll give some examples, but I'm not limiting myself to that. We should not limit ourselves to that. But let's take the sugar industry as an example. This sector has been the major source of livelihood for about 25% of Kenya's populations, either directly or indirectly. Some of the sugarcane factories that need attention include Chemelil, Mohoroni, Soni, Mumias, Nzoia. In order to support the sector, some of the following steps need to be listed. I'll highlight one or two of them. Take deliberate steps to zone catchment areas for various public sugarcane factories, together with tracking systems and databases to be shared so that we institute penalties for those who engage in sugar poaching. And we have seen it has migrated from sugar. It used to be in coffee poaching, whether it was poaching from Uganda through Chepkube, or what happened to the coffee industry in the central Kenya region. Now it came to poaching of sugarcane. We have now seen that poaching of tea is beginning to grow. So clearly something is amiss, and it's beginning to destroy our agricultural sector. Some of the debts will require to be written off to support these farmers. It makes no sense that we as Kenyans will subsidize power purchase agreements for people who are making us pay for electricity at very high levels because we are trying to subsidize them. And we run away from subsidizing our farmers. When we look at our power bills, you ask yourself, are you living in a factory or are you living in a residence? Has it ever occurred to you it is because we are being made to subsidize power purchase agreements? A few people are making the kill, but we shy away from subsidizing the Kenyan farmer. We need to revisit the cooperative movement in this country. After all, what is the term harambe at the end of the day? Harambe means pulling together. What was the cooperative movement all about? Pulling together, getting what you'd call a critical mass pulling together. Our cooperative sector is not doing well. It needs urgent attention. It was the foundation for small-scale savings and use of resources. We are equally exploring new areas of technology and also exploring areas like the blue economy. This is all very good, and I think we should, as much as we deal with some of the sectors that require revamping, we need to explore new others. So we are proposing that what we have as the Kenya Maritime Authority should also be broadened so that it can become the Kenya Maritime and Blue Economy Authority, so that it can take over and help in guiding the issues around the blue economy. So in a nutshell, with our growing population and with the demographics that we now know, that 70% of Kenyans are young, and this is going to be a permanent future for a very long time, we have to start positioning Kenya differently, not just as a market for imported products, where we are now beginning to import eggs, we are importing milk powder, we are importing everything, we are importing second-hand clothes, we are importing virtually every consumable. We need to act on that. We support the BBI report for actually emphasizing that more resources should be dedicated to development. And to do this, painful decisions will have to be taken. As I have said, some mega projects will have to be shelved for some time, because the ratio in terms of what we have is something to worry about in terms of what we collect and what we propose, or what we have been presenting as budgets to spend. We have been living a lie for a very long time. We are very clear that it would be important that when we look at regional blocks, and I'll say a little more to it when I come to governance, we should stick to those regional blocks as just that, regional economic blocks. Let's not try and create other bureaucracies around this. Creating economic synergies is a dynamic process, and we need to encourage a situation where that happens and not try and create another burden on the tax.